Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and Michigan just picked up a huge commitment on the recruiting trail. Before we dive into the news, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $10 until next football season. Get premium insider recruiting information, team information, basketball recruiting, NIL, portal, and a great message board community over on the Fort. All right now for just $10 until August of 2023. Subscribe now for just $10. And if you already are a subscriber, remember you can gift a subscription. Christmas weekend is right around the corner. Hanukkah is here. Go ahead and gift a subscription to the Wolverine right now for just $10. Nobody wants your Outback Steakhouse gift cards. They want a subscription to the Wolverine. I'll take the Outback Steakhouse gift card. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into this week's news. And actually, today's news. It's National Signing Day. I mean, come on. Karmello English, 4-star wide receiver out of Phoenix City, Alabama, Central High School, has signed with Michigan, or I guess committed. He will sign his letter of intent after this video publishes, but he has sided with Michigan over fellow finalist Kentucky. This was a big land for Michigan on signing day as we await the announcement of Jair Hill later on today. But English, again, the top overall wide receiver target on the board. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this recruitment overall, how things kind of panned out, and then we'll dive into English as a player. So in terms of his recruitment, Michigan hosted him for an official visit, was in his top group throughout the offseason, but always seemed to be on the outside looking in. He went ahead and committed to home state program Auburn in the offseason, but decommitted in the fall. Obviously, Auburn had all types of issues. They parted ways with Coach Harsin, so he's out, and they replaced him with Hugh Freeze, who never really made any movement with English. But once he opened things up, it was pretty clear that Alabama, Michigan, and Kentucky were going to be the schools at the very top of his list. He visited Alabama, but they ended up filling up as they took a commitment from another Michigan target in Jaron Hamilton. So it really came down to Michigan and Kentucky. He made an unofficial visit to Michigan for the game against Penn State in October, and that's when things really started to trend a little bit towards the Wolverines. He developed a terrific relationship with wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy, who did a fantastic job of closing the deal. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan's head coach, was personally involved as well. But I think that visit really moved the needle. I know Michigan had a pretty run-heavy offense throughout the season, but he saw opportunity to come in and potentially be a dynamic weapon, to add an element to the Michigan offense that it might not have. And English being a guy that can play in the slot, that can play outside, that's extremely explosive, he saw the opportunity to potentially play and earn a starting job as a true freshman. So I think despite the offense being more run-oriented, he really saw opportunity. I think distance and climate were the biggest negatives against Michigan, being an Alabama kid. But remember, Michigan's had success there recently. They just pulled Deuce Spurlock. They pulled Nico Collins several cycles ago. So, distance, once kids get to Michigan, distance might not be a factor. Karmello sees himself as a culture fit, as just a home family type of environment fit. So I don't think distance was enough to keep him away from Michigan, and obviously it wasn't since he signed with the Wolverines. But Kentucky made a strong run, pitched him on being a little closer. I mean, how much closer is Lexington? Can't be that much closer. But anyway, Kentucky made him a big pitch on staying a little closer to home, having the opportunity to play in the SEC, which is what English really wanted to do early on in his recruitment. They sold him on the development of star freshman Varian Brown, a very pass-happy offense. And most importantly, Kentucky sold him on NIL. Obviously, Michigan's not doing a ton there from a recruiting perspective. Kentucky's doing a little bit more. And so he had those opportunities at Kentucky, but overall, English felt like Michigan was a better program. And this is once again a testament to Ron Bellamy, who has ties in the Southeast, being from Louisiana. He can personally connect really, really well with kids from down there. You saw it last cycle pulling a Marion Walker out of Louisiana. So getting a guy from Alabama like Karmello English, who had legitimate interest from SEC programs like Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, it shows again the recruiting prowess that Ron Bellamy brings to the table. So even though English didn't make it back for another visit before signing day, Michigan did enough to come away with this win. So big victory for Bellamy. And then as far as what English brings to the table as a wide receiver, like I just mentioned, I mean, he's a guy that's very explosive, that can play in the slot, that can play outside. I actually saw English for the first time 2 years ago at a 7-on-7 tournament. And, you know, I usually spend time watching the Michigan commits, but when they're not on the field, I try my best to just kind of look out for some other guys that might pop up on the radar. And I watched this Alabama team, Gas Crew Elite, and I noticed Karmello right away. He definitely stood out. He was making plays all over the field, and their coach, Coach Steele, told me, hey, this is Karmello English. He's going to be a stud. Keep an eye out for him. And I saw him again the following offseason at another 7-on-7 tournament, actually playing against Michigan freshman Miles Pollard, and English had a really good game there. And that's when I wrote, hey, Michigan should offer this kid Karmello English. And I still have a highlight video of him on social media just mossing a guy in the end zone and being like, you need to know Karmello English. He was super impressive in 7-on-7. Saw him multiple times throughout the circuit, but did not get a chance to see him in game in a live game setting. But from his film, from the 7-on-7 evaluations that I've been able to make, I mean, he can bring an element that Michigan doesn't necessarily have on its roster right now. And I liked some of the wide receiver lands from last cycle. You look at Tyler Morris, terrific possession receiver. You look at Darius Clemens, a taller wide receiver that can stretch the field. I think English is kind of a mix of both. He has the speed to get vertical, but he can also create a lot of havoc on crosses, drags, underneath routes. He can be J.J. McCarthy's best friend. Doesn't just have to, throw it to Colston Loveland. He can get English on those short routes, and he can make explosive plays. He's really dangerous with the ball in his hands. He's super athletic. He has a great catch radius, great natural instincts. He's not the tallest guy at 5'11", 180 pounds, but you see the athleticism, you see the explosiveness. And I just think he's kind of at that next level. You have quality wide receiver commits right now in Samaj Morgan and Frederick Moore, who are both kind of high 3-star, low 4-star types of prospects. Karmello English is a 4-star guy all the way. He's ranked as the number 191 overall recruit nationally on the On3 consensus. He's a 4-star across the board by every major recruiting service. ESPN actually has him ranked as a top 100 prospect. I have English ranked around about 150 to 175 nationally, so I have him a little higher than the consensus. Again, I just love what Karmello English brings to the table. I think he's going to be a star in Ann Arbor. All right, guys, for more signing day coverage, make sure to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today. What better day to do it than today, National Signing Day, for just $10 until next football season. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and get alerts. We will be streaming the Jair Hill ceremony later today, so make sure to tune in for that. Subscribe, it's free, and like this video. It helps with our algorithm.